Good morning and welcome to BBOC Live. This is the College Football Bowl Betting Preview Part 4 presented by BetMGM. I'm Stuckey and joining me, as always, are Collin Wilson and Mr. Brett McMurphy. We will cover the remaining bowl games through the College Football Playoff. We'll give two best bets and we will talk through both college football semifinals games. Before we do get started here, I want to remind everyone, make sure you download the award-winning Action Network app. If you haven't already, you can find all of our bets there in addition to an abundance of data and content for today's slate and beyond. Also, as I mentioned previously, BBOC is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,500 paid back in bonus bets if your first bet loses. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, before we get started here, Collin, I know you were in the air last night. You went against us and the Arizona train. Good news for you. Arizona's done playing this season, so you can't lose any more money.
But can they still give up 550 yards and get 6 turnovers? Will that still happen?
A cover is a cover. I checked my balance at the end of the night and it got credited. Arizona, that was a really entertaining game. The Arizona offensive line, they basically were playing without tackles. They moved, a true freshman from guard to left tackle. They moved they brought in this reserve to play right tackle. Pretty wild game. The games have gotten a little bit better of late, and I think the college football semifinal, we're setting up here to have two fantastic games, which we'll get to in a moment. Brett, getting hot at the right time, but you were outdoors for your last two sweeps. Now you're back indoors. Why change it up?
Well, it's easy, Stuck. The paparazzi found out where I was located, so I had to come inside. I'm out here in Pasadena, Hollywood area, so people are flocking all around. They know I'm on a 5-0 run. You'll like this, Stuck. I texted Jed Fish, our boy, after the game, told him congrats, and told him I was moving him up in my way too early top 10 to probably like 7 or 8 after that game, and he was glad to come through for you and I. So team bear down continues.
Well, hopefully Collin was texting with some of the Oklahoma staff and mourning that loss.
And talking about the stat difference. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So let's move on to our best bets here. I'll kick things off. Collin, by the way, you also have hit 2 in a row. You're finally over 500, so the show is hot. I'm going to kick things off here with my first best bet. I'm going with Maryland against Auburn. Running dog here that I like. I think Hemby and company can have success on the ground. I know Maryland's starting quarterback Talia is out, but I think Hemby and company can have success running on this Auburn team, which is how you can move the ball on them. I like running dogs in bowl games. And, Auburn, I don't know if Maryland's going to have a ton of success throwing the ball, but Auburn probably has some opt-outs on the back end. And on the other end, this Auburn offense is still extremely limited, especially at wide receiver. A team that I'm just happy to fade during bowl season. I don't know where they're at mentally after that Alabama loss as well. Who knows how much time they really put in to this game, but give me the running dog here with the Terps. Collin, where are you going for your first best bet?
Yeah, I'm going to go down to the Orange Bowl, and I want to finish over 500 here. A Rocky 3 comeback, so I'm going to win 2 here. Let's start off with Georgia minus 10.5 in the first half. Who's Florida State got playing for them? Brock Glenn's at quarterback. If I was sitting here to read all the NFL opt-outs, transfer portal opt-outs, we would expire our time on this show. There's almost nobody going to be there. Meanwhile, Kirby Smart is whispering in the ears of his entire roster that you have the chance to be the single winningest senior class in the history of Georgia football. Those kids are eating nails right now. Carson Beck is returning next year at quarterback. He's going to play in this bowl game. Georgia ultimately motivated here, feeling like they can beat an undefeated team. You name it. Kirby Smart can twist it into getting you motivated. They generally come out pretty flat at the beginning of games. Don't think that's going to be the case here whatsoever. Give me Georgia minus 10.5 in the first half.
All right, good stuff there in a game. Yeah, the Florida State roster. It's bad when even your backup quarterback who was slated to start decides, hey, you know what? I'm going into the transfer portal. Brett, your best bet is in the first marquee matchup. We'll talk a little Rose Bowl between Alabama and Michigan. This one should be a good one out in Pasadena, where Brett currently is. So, Brett, why don't you give us our best bet to kick things off while we break down this game? What do you got?
Yeah, Michigan's a small favorite right now. This is only the fifth time Saban has been an underdog at Alabama, the first time against a non-SEC team since 2018. So this is a rare, unique situation for Bama. Obviously, they'll play that up, but I don't think this is a typical Bama team. You guys talked about this on your podcast earlier in the week, and I just think Michigan's been the more dominant team all year. The question for me is that because Michigan is that dominant, or maybe because they face some suspect offensive teams? Probably a little bit of both, but still the Wolverines, the nation's number 2 ranked defense. They have the nation's 6th best running attack. I think they'll give Bama problems. We've seen Bama in games that they kind of, screwed around and were in tight games where they shouldn't have been, most notably against Auburn, A&M. Betting against Saban getting points is not smart. Nobody's ever told me that I'm smart. So I'm going with Bodog Jim and the Wolverines as a small favorite in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going Michigan here too. I played some Michigan money line. I when I look at these teams just from a numbers perspective, I have this over a field goal. Now, Michigan is hard to read. They had a number of injuries. They played, just nobody up until the end of the season. Then you have the whole sign stealing stuff. How much was that worth? So very interesting team to break down. Same thing with Alabama. I mean, Milroe was benched for a game. They came on. Their offense started to come on at the end of the year. But you said it. I mean, this Alabama team, to me, they beat Georgia. I think really Georgia more so beat themselves in that game. But Alabama they only beat Arkansas by 3 points. They could have easily lost to A&M. They should have lost to Auburn. This whole season they've just been kind of flirting around, and this offense will just go into droughts. The offensive line isn't as dominant. The skill positions aren't as dominant as we've seen at Alabama, in recent seasons. So I think that Michigan, with a month to prepare, they can get that offensive line in order without Zinter. Edwards and Corum get healthier. McCarthy gets healthier. I think his legs are going to be big here. And I think they'll be able to run the ball. That's the key to the game to me. They have to run the ball to just avoid 3rd and longs. I think that they're going to have a really good game plan. Look for a big game out of Loveland. I think Edwards in the slot potentially could make some big plays. And then I think on the other end, the Michigan D-line is going to win in the trenches. And you have a month to prepare for, hey, we got to stop Milroe running and we got to stop the deep ball. Force him into the intermediary throws where his accuracy dips and he tends to struggle with reading where guys are. That's where mistakes are going to come. I think that's the difference. I think Michigan will be able to run it. I think Milroe will make a mistake or two. I think Michigan wins this game. Tight one. I think both games are going to be tight, but I like Michigan here. Collin, you're going to make it a clean sweep with Bodog Jim and the Wolverines?
Clean sweep with Michigan here, because you do not need to steal signs to know what Alabama is going to do on offense. It's pretty simple. Contain Jalen Milroe in the pocket when he drops back to throw. Take away the deep pass. The deep passing, he had 24 big-time throws and no turnover-worthy plays. Didn't make a single mistake on passes over 20 yards. You jump to the 10 to 19 range, 1 big-time throw, 7 turnover-worthy plays. This is the same template that Georgia and Texas executed on Jalen Milroe. Lock him up in the pocket, maintain your pass rush integrity lane, and then take away the deep throw. And plus, don't forget, Michigan has caused 13 fumbles this season. That's one of the highest in the nation. Jalen Milroe loves to put that ball on the carpet. It's not a stretch for me to say that the Michigan defense is going to do their job and give Alabama serious problems in this game. You go to the other side of the ball. Are we going to get the Michigan team that thought they could line up and bully Georgia 2 years ago? Or are we going to get the Michigan offense that went spread, tempo, verticals, and J.J. McCarthy absolutely running everywhere? I think you get the latter. I like Michigan to win this game. I think Roman Wilson has an anytime TD in the slot, something Alabama's not been able to defend. We'll go with the Wolverines here to move on to the national title.
Good stuff there. Clean sweep on Michigan. Let's move on to the second college football playoff semifinal between Texas and Washington. These two teams actually met last year in the Alamo Bowl, where Washington prevailed 27-20. I think you can actually take a lot from that game. You got the same quarterback starting. And, I went back, watched the game, kind of dove into some of the advanced metrics of both teams from that game and then from the season. And it led me to an under. I like the under here. What Texas did in that game is they played a lot of quarters, which they do regardless. They said, hey, let's try to take away Washington's explosive play. Penix was only 1 of 10 on throws 20 plus yards downfield. They did move the ball, short passes, screens, and running the ball. Well, this year you're not going to run the ball on Sweat and company. I do think Washington will have some success throwing short passes, your crossers, screens. So they're going to move the ball down the field. By the way, they don't operate at a fast pace, but I think in the red zone, when the field shrinks, that's where Texas is going to step up. And on the other side, I think Washington, Texas's offense, they also struggle a bit in the red zone when the field condenses. And that's mainly because their rushing attack just doesn't have that same boost right now that it did early in the season after a key injury. So I think there's going to be a lot of stops in the red zone here. And Washington's defense has been trending up. It's a team that doesn't have a ton of depth. And, it doesn't have as much, they don't have as much depth as your Alabamas, your Georgias of the world. So when they lose defenders, the drop off is big. Guys like Tooley, Cam Fab at safety, Asa Turner. Well, they're healthier now. They're even getting Durfee, this guy who hasn't been eligible all year. Apparently he's going to help off the edge. But now their defense is healthy. It's trending in the right direction. I think it's undervalued here. The Texas offense is going to have its boom or bust moments, but I think Washington's defense can hang here. Game, I don't think is going to be played at a super fast pace. I think this is too high of a total. Give me the under between Texas and Washington. Collin, what do you got here between the Horns and Huskies?
I feel like you made a lot of cases for Washington there, more than you did for Texas. I'm taking Washington +4, a number that I have been told is going to close at 3 if you like the Huskies here. From an offensive perspective, first you have to start off with, can this fantastic pass rush of Texas get to Penix? Probably not. A 3.2% pressure to sack ratio, you just can't get hands on them. Look at the Alamo Bowl last year. 55 true passing attempts by Michael Penix in that Alamo Bowl. Texas produced 5 pressures, no quarterback hits, no sacks. They couldn't get to him. I know it's a year later. This is the Joe Moore Award winning offensive line. I don't expect Penix to have any problems. Plus, look at the routes that they run. Yes, it's all set up by play action, and Texas can stop that. But when Washington is not running play action, it's wide receiver screens and hitches. Texas has a very low 37% success rate against those routes. I think this Texas secondary is ripe to be gobbled up by Michael Penix here. When you flip to the other side of the ball, it makes the case for your under. Texas, 121st in red zone touchdown scoring. The Steve Sarkisian's one of the most brilliant offensive minds in the nation. But this is 2 years in a row where his finishing drives is in the bottom half of FBS football teams. For some reason, they cannot execute at a consistent pace past the 40-yard line. Give me Washington +4 here in a game that should be a barn burner.
Colin's only coaching friend left, Sark. He's slandering him. He's going to have no one left to text. You're going to have to stick with the Oklahoma staff now. Yeah, you're all about Oklahoma. You're slandering Sark. What's going on here? Brett, you disagree here. You're going with the Horns and Colin's voice.
I am. Yeah, this is my second best bet, Texas. And just got a text from Sark. He says, to quote Taylor Swift, Collin, we are never, ever getting back together. So sorry about that. The bromance is over. Look, I like Texas. I think they're the most balanced team in the field. And I don't think Washington's going to be able to run against Sweat. And a lot of guys like Stuckey brought up, they're going to drop 8. They're going to make him play underneath. I don't think they necessarily need to get to Penix a lot. I think they're going to make him methodically move the ball down the field. And I think that's what happened to Washington. When you look at their 2 wins against Oregon, the 6 games in between those 2 wins, they looked very pedestrian, if you will, against the likes of Arizona State, Stanford, Washington State. Easily could have lost all 6 of those games, certainly those 3 against those 3 teams that are a lot less talented than them. I just think Texas is the most balanced team. I think they have the most talent. There's some analytics that I look at that look at recruiting numbers, returning talent. Of the 4 teams in the playoff, Texas is rated as the best team. So I'm going to stick with that. Hook 'em horns. Texas beats Washington. Sorry, Collin. So you're going to lose your bet and Sarks, and you are no longer on direct message. back and forth. So
I'm sitting on 100-1. I'm gonna miss it if they lose the 100-1. I'm just gonna do what I always do. Plastic it, make it a coaster.
Look out, good little head-to-head there. We have one final order of business, and that's our second best bet. Brett just had Texas, which was his. I'll split mine between the first half, so I could give out the first half under too. Split mine between first half and game under, because that's what I did actually. Because Texas's offense they're going to have moments where they hit a couple explosive plays, then they go into a shell for a while. So I can see, they have a quarter where there's boom scoring. I don't know when that's going to be, so I did split up my bet between first half and game under. First half under 31.5 is what I bet. So that'll be my second best bet. Collin, this is one of the last shows of the year, and you're going to close it out by telling the people to bet what as your second best bet?
I'm in a house with 14 in-laws. All of them were born in the state of Iowa. So if I didn't wear this hat and make an Iowa pick, I might be sleeping on the street tonight. I'm going to take Iowa over 13.5 on the team total. You say, Collin, you're crazy. They can't score that many points. Well, look at the Tennessee side of the ball. Joe Milton has opted out of this game. It's going to be the first start for Nico Iamaleava. And that is a problem for Josh Heupel in this offense. Remember, this is a stretch air raid version that depends on timing. These wide receivers are taught to go a certain number of steps, turn around, and hopefully the ball is right there in their face mask. You're going to have Nico in charge of doing that in his first game ever against one of the best coverage defenses in the nation. I don't care if Cooper DeJean's not there. This entire system just destroys quarterbacks, especially ones that don't have any experience. You could get a defensive score here. On the other side of the ball, there's nothing that I can tell you that says Iowa's going to score a whole bunch of points, or maybe that the offense can get to 14 points. But for some reason, in bowl games, Iowa gets a month off. They've scored 21, 17, 49, 27, and 27 in their last 5 bowl games. All of those over 13.5. Give me Ferenc. Give me the Hawkeyes. Be waving to the kids at the hospital, and my whole family here will be happy with me. I'll be invited back.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, that is a super low number. It is a bowl game. Teams are going to go for it on fourth downs, do just dumb things. It's a meaningless bowl game. Tennessee does have a lot of defenders who are also out. And as you mentioned, this is a complex defense, makes you work it down the field. Pick six, just turnovers in general to create short fields are certainly in the cards. So I actually don't hate it. All right, that'll do it for us. Thanks to Collin and Brett, as always, for joining me. Thanks to our producers on the back end. Most importantly, thanks to all of you for tuning in. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you hit subscribe or like. One final reminder, make sure you download the award-winning Action Network app. You can find all of our bets there in addition to an abundance of data and content for today's slate and beyond. Big Bets on Campus, wherever you listen to a podcast, we have all of our previews out. We go way more in depth on both college football playoff semifinals in our bowl betting preview part 4. We will have our national title preview next week. Make sure you check that out as well. And also, another final reminder that BBOC is presented by BetMGM. Use bonus code ACTION when signing up to get up to $1,500 paid back in bonus bets if your first bet loses. For new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 plus. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Thanks for tuning in. Good luck on all of your wagers. Enjoy both college football playoff semifinal games, and we'll catch y'all next week. Cheers.